wide variety of soups and sandwiches. The bakery has fresh baked bread daily, along with cakes and more. And the pizza and wine bar features gourmet pizzas that pair perfectly with their 30-plus wines by the glass. Located off Victoria and Grand, more at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Broadcasting live on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and in the nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM KKNW. It's the Matt McNeil Show for your Thursday. Good to have you with us today. Guest free this hour, second hour, comedian Robert Burrill is kind enough to join us. We'll talk about some upcoming shows he has. Patrick, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm happy, as I imagine. I know Chicago's going to be happy about this. Minneapolis, St. Paul's going to be happy. I don't know how happy Seattle is because I don't think he's got a show planned there. But Paul McCartney is coming back on tour.
Oh, yeah, I did wake up to that news this morning. I'm going to try to go. I have not seen Sir Paul live.
Yeah, it's a Beatle, for goodness sakes. I have not seen him. I screwed up the last time he came on tour. I think in town here he played Target Field, if I remember correctly. And I did not get seats early enough, and then it was gone. I'm going to go get seats. He's playing here. He's playing the big place. He's playing US Bank. He's playing at it's a stadium show here. He's at the United Center in Chicago at the end of his tour for 2 nights. Nicely done, Chicago. I might have to make a trip down there for that. I have not. It has been on my list to see a Beatle before I leave this mortal coil.
Mm-hmm. I did get the privilege of seeing Ringo back in 2019.
Oh, where'd you see him?
Was at a Mystic Lake, which is a casino on the southwest side of the Twin Cities.
That's not bad. That's kind of a closer venue. And when you think about that, you saw a Beatle in a relatively small venue.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a great show.
I kick myself because there, and I guess being dumb as being a kid, obviously John was assassinated long before I kind of started going to concerts, but George was going on tour and he was around and he'd play like relatively small venues, comparatively. I mean, it wasn't playing the baseball fields and the football fields. He was, kind of playing traditional arenas. And oh God, that's when I regret greatly is never seeing George Harrison play, never seeing him play. I've seen, so of the greats, I mean, Bowie as well. I never got the chance to see Bowie live. Of all the greats that are still around, is there anyone on your list that is, no matter what? I mean, Jeff Lynne ELO just came through, caught that. So
yeah, I was at that show last September as well. So that was a good one. The one that I regret, this maybe isn't as big of a name, is Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues was here. It was in April, and I did not get to go to that.
Do not badmouth the Moody Blues, because the Moody Blues, my dad loved the Moody Blues. My dad did. It was one of the few modern bands my dad really liked. And you go from their beginnings and Ride My Seesaw and all that stuff all the way to their superstardom that they got in the 1980s when they came out with those new albums. They got a lot of great songs. And I'll even argue Gemini Dream, which was their disco song, because everyone had a disco album. Gemini Dream was actually a pretty good album. Kate Bush is one that if she ever came in, I don't care how much the ticket costs. I'd go see Kate Bush. Peter Gabriel came, was going around, and I would see Peter Gabriel. I had a line in on some floor seats for me and some friends, and it ended up disappearing, and I never kind of got around to it. One that a lot of people are waiting for, and myself included, in announcing is The Cure, because they just put out a new album, and I mean, there's a lot of people speculating they're going to come back out on tour. Because how would you even cut down the number of songs they've had into a show? Okay. I mean, I saw the first farewell tour of the Eagles. They played everything, including all the solo songs. The only song they did not play was Witchy Woman. And that was like a 4-hour show. I mean, they played Joe Walsh's hits. They played Glenn Fry's hits. They just everything. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad I saw that one. But yeah, I would love to see The Cure. I never got to see them even through the 80s, even though I was a fan of The Cure. I just never did. So In Excess, Tears for Fears, and a lot of those bands, that now that most of them not around that much. And it still does kill me. And if you don't know anything about me as a radio host, I am a massive fan of the band Rush out of Canada. And I didn't miss a show. I mean, I saw them every time they came through. I saw them at Minnesota State. They played the Minnesota State Fair a few years back. Oh, that was amazing. But no, I've caught them every time, and they don't tour anymore because Neil Peart passed away, and they're not picking up a new drummer, so they just kind of have moved on. But gosh, I miss that. But I'm glad I at least saw them. I did see that. I saw the Beach Boys play. That was, gosh, in 1980s. I was on Lake Lanier. They were playing basically an amphitheater, and this is before Kokomo and all that stuff came out, and they had a resurgence. They played like in front of 1,000 people at this kind of rundown amphitheater, and I'm counting it. I'm counting it still, but they only played for like an hour and a half, like 2 hours max.
Mhm.
I think they were like, okay, we got to get to the next show, but I did catch the Beach Boys once.
Well, that sounds pretty exciting too. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I can't really think of any more artists because I've seen Billy Joel 3 times.
God, I can't be. Billy Joel's fantastic.
Yeah. Hopefully he recovers and is
Yeah.
able to tour again. But if he has to hang it up, it was a great run, and I'm glad I got to see him a few times. So yeah, I think that's about it. As terms, I don't really have many regrets on my list of gosh, I wish I had seen them.
I think that okay. So Billy Joel just came through with Stevie Nicks once again. Goddess. Stevie Nicks is phenomenal. I had one of the things that's amazing is I did not see that show when it came through, but the people I know that went and saw that show, they said it's amazing because Stevie Nicks she's not young. I mean, obviously all those years with Fleetwood Mac as well, but she's not young, and so she kind of she seemed to have it was a little bit of effort for her, and they said that compared to that Billy Joel, who I think is might be older than her, and he just kept going. He does those shows and he just does not stop. And so yeah, I hope he does heal because Billy Joel is great. Have you seen Elton?
Yeah, I actually saw him with
Wow.
Billy Joel back in 2009.
That was that right? That dual tour. Wow. That's another one on my list. I don't know if how many chances I'll have left to see him here or and I'll say it, Cher. I'd go see Cher. I would just just to hear her do Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. I would love to see her sing that. 952-946-6205. Speaking of Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, the Trump administration. Okay, so I am concerned about the economy. I have talked about that here. I've tried. I am not let's go to the inside desk to find out what our trades are for the day. I've tried my best to kind of convey the concerns I have about this economy in some sort of way that is relatable, that because most people don't have stock or are not in this, they need to understand the dangers we're in. And I said this before, is that if you have a recession, that's you going to the bank and all of a sudden realizing, oh, I don't have a lot of funds. It's going to be a lean few months. That's fine. The difference between a recession and a depression is you go to the bank and the bank says it doesn't have any money. And that's a very different thing, that even though that you may have listed on an account money, they're saying, no, we don't have the money anymore. That's very different. That's not we're bouncing back. I'm eating a little bit leaner the next few months. That is, okay, how do we get through the next 5 years? There are a lot of signs, and once again, a lot of this was done when Trump put those tariffs into place on all these countries for 10 hours, and he cracked the U.S. economic system. There has, in the past, the reason why something is not right here is that in the past, if one piece of bad economic news came down, it kind of weighed down the markets because there was some concern. I'll give you a great example of this. Stock market has brushed off Trump's latest volley of tariffs, but a comment he made Tuesday has jolted the market for a copper, the base metal with a wide variety of applications, including homes, cars, devices that power the grid, and data centers. The price of U.S. copper futures hit a record high Tuesday after Trump told reporters at the White House that a 50% tariff on the metal was imminent. That's a pretty big tariff. Later that day, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said on CNBC that the copper tariff would come into effect late July, early August. The tariff rate was higher than many analysts were anticipating, a reflection of the surge in price of copper. Now, if you are going to put a tariff on copper coming into the United States, once again, not paid for by the countries that are exporting the copper, that's paid for the American businesses that are utilizing the copper for their products, which there are a lot of. This is going to be a massive increase in cost. And even if you basically blew apart every environmental law we have in the country and started digging right now, you send people out with shovels today, it would probably, and once again, I am bare boning that, it would probably take 2 to 3 years to get some viable traction in, by digging up the Grand Canyon or digging up Zion or digging up Yosemite and getting the copper or metals that are underneath that. It's still probably be 3 to 4 years before we saw any benefit for it. So this is a dangerous game. In the past, something like this happens. You would get an immediately pull back on the markets. And you could have 6 or 7 positive economic stories, but this one bad economic story caused people to be a lot more cautious. That was before Trump took office. Now it's the opposite. Not only do you have this, you have his, ham-handed tariff policy. I mean, he's picking a major tariff fight with Brazil, who is a country that actually could do a lot of damage to the United States, specifically in its ag sector. And, and this and the copper and the other tariffs that he's put in, and that the bond market is unsteady. Currency that's having its worst year since 1973. There's a lot of bad things here, but yet one person says, hey, Delta met expectations, and the markets go up. It is the complete opposite, which is scaring me, because this is the epitome of a bubble. This is a bubble being created, where even though the reality that we are facing with our economic system all points to negatives, what is going on right now is a almost belligerent attitude towards the negatives and saying we're just going to keep pushing it higher. That's not a good sign. More on this when I come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Hi, Penny here from Nightingale in Minneapolis. Exciting news. During the warmer months, we're extending our charm to the patio. Imagine savoring your favorite dishes outside, surrounded by the lively energy of South Minneapolis near 26th and Lindale. And guess what? Nightingale's patio is not just a dining space. It's also dog-friendly. Craft cocktails, curated wines, and half-price bottles of wine on Mondays are still part of the deal. Open daily 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. with a full menu until midnight. Join us at Nightingale, where good times and great flavors come together.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
Market Fresh Minnesota is your to-go destination for fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples. Locally owned and operated, Market Fresh Minnesota brings together the best of Asian foods in one welcoming store that is also kind to the pocketbook. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store, just south of Rosedale on 1800 County Road 36. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces is having their annual sale for the entire month of July. All of their indoor and outdoor fireplace products and accessories are at the lowest price of the year.
Did you know that now there's also a 30% federal tax credit when you install an efficient wood heating stove or fireplace? At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we can explain and show you the many options. We have the Twin Cities' widest selection of wood-burning stoves and fireplaces.
I love my wood stove. We enjoy the sense of well-being we get by cutting and splitting wood to warm our home. Wood is our choice, but you may have other choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Whether transforming an existing fireplace or adding something new, a clean-burning wood, gas, or electric fire can have you sitting pretty and cozy by the fire.
Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces at Riverside and East Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis or at woodlandstoves.com. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, since 1977, out of the ordinary products and services to make fire work for you.
I'll never forget. I was driving my Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota, and I was hit at 35 miles an hour, rear-ended square flush. If not for the structural integrity of my Sienna, I wouldn't be here right now. There's a lot I can say about Rudy Luther Toyota, about their fantastic service department and their great selection, but being able to say your car saved my life is the best endorsement I can make. Toyotas from Rudy Luther Toyota are my highest recommendation. Get one today and tell them me, Matt McNeil, told you to stop on in. Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley. It is the Matt McNeil Show. So, so there is this problem with the economy where, once again, we are having bad economic news after bad economic news after bad economic news after bad economic news. And at any point, and this is not just under Democratic presidents, I think under Trump's first term that this would have probably been the same thing, or W. Bush's terms. You generally don't, when the market doesn't like to run on gumption. It just doesn't. It likes facts. And right now, our economic markets are running on freaking gumption, to say the least, because it really doesn't make a lot of sense that you can have as much negative news about the economy coming in and the markets seem to be acting differently. Like I said, you have 6 or 7 bad. You in the past, you would have 6 or 7 positive stories about the economy and 1 bad one, and the markets would go down a little bit. Today, you have 6 or 7 bad stories about the economy, 1 good one, and the market goes up 200 points. It's up 192, and it shouldn't be going up at 192. Especially when you look at what really is going on, because as much as people in the past, when you've had authoritarian regimes take over, the moves that have been made are to hide the authoritarianism, and they would do things that would, economic things like this, just to try to keep people in the dark about what their real goal was. The Trump administration seems to be different this time. The authoritarianism is out there proudly displayed, that they have no problem with it. Meanwhile, there are things going on in the background which they are a bit of a concern, to say the least. Someone brought this point up yesterday, and I think it's an exceptional one. This is Spencer Hakamian. He an analyst of business news. Somebody front ran the Brazilian tariff news. Somebody bought a huge amount of U.S. currency and shorted the Brazilian currency at 1:32 p.m. yesterday, Eastern time. A 50% tariff announcement came at 4:19 p.m., at which point it looks like the big trader immediately exited the trade instantly, making a 2.5% on the currency trade, which are usually 10 to 20% leverage. So reality is 25 to 50% in less than 3 hours. He made a mint, whoever knew that this was going to happen. And basically, he doesn't mix words. It's the most blatantly corrupt administration ever. This is a massive cash grab. I have said, I think I would not be surprised if Trump backs up trucks to Fort Knox, takes the gold out of Fort Knox, puts it into his private accounts, and that Supreme Court's going to be like, well, did you tell him you couldn't do that? Is it listed that the U.S.'s gold is not the president's personal gold? Well, that's your mistake. This is a grift. And it seems like there is massive levels of market manipulation right now, where we should be having a market at the very least cautiously pulling back on its numbers because there's all this negative news. But then you see this sort of thing that's going on behind the scenes where I'll say it. My guess is there's somebody in the White House, probably with the last name Trump, who knew this was coming, knew exactly how to put this into place, coordinated when the news dropped, and then they dumped their funds and they basically made a mint. You generally don't see it like that. And will anyone in Washington, D.C. investigate what clearly seems to be insider information that they knew the Brazilian thing was coming down? Of course not. None of these 4 House reps in the state of Minnesota who are Republican have any appetite at all. But yet Joe Biden, yeah, exactly. Here's where this gets really scary, is Trump and his minions wanting to go after the Fed to change the interest rate. Trump and now a growing number of Republicans, many of whom are probably in on this insider trading, want the Fed to deliver big-time interest rate cuts now. They might want to be careful what they wish for. There's a reasonable case that cutting interest rates soon, there'll be few signs that the data of the interest rate policy is widely out of step with the U.S. economy's fundamentals. So basically, the reason why the interest rates aren't being cut is because there's no need to do so. The kinds of steep cuts the president seeks at a time of economic broadly imbalance that risk increasing long-term borrowing costs, particularly if they are seen as politically motivated. In early 2022, policy was way too loose, as evidenced by inflation. In 2008, policy was too tight, reflected by the unemployment rate surging. Right now, nothing is too obviously out of whack, so you shouldn't be changing the interest rates just because Trump says so. Powell, the Fed chair, acknowledged last week the Fed would be in rate-cutting mode already if officials weren't worried about the tariffs causing an inflation surge. The president and his allies are arguing a much steeper rate cuts than those, with rationale that that risks unintentional consequences by undermining the credibility of the Fed. Our Fed rate is at least 3 points too high. Too late is costing. These are things that Trump wrote on Truth Social on Wednesday. So basically saying that we should have a massive 3-point cut in interest rates. Oh, God. That's the kind of policy stance the Fed takes when the labor market's in the dumps in need of monetary stimulus, not when the economy is healthy. To achieve that kind of rate cut, Trump is calling for a newly appointed Fed chair who would need to actually persuade the other colleagues on the Fed to basically dump the markets. And it's a great paradox. Generally, if you would do something like this, the bond market would somewhat collapse. And if the bond market collapsed, and the currency market is collapsing, and the ag market is collapsing, and the housing market is collapsing, and here's the problem, is that if you do this, if you basically just say, we're going to make it zero, it's going to be zero, there's not going to be any interest rate, it's going to be zero. When that eventual crash does come, because once again, you are building a freaking bubble right now. When that eventual crash does come, it is going to, there is nothing the Fed can really do to offset the pain. I mean, if you're not going to offer people money to borrow it, the only thing you can do is then start printing money. And this is why this is going to go badly. And when it does go badly, it's going to go badly very quickly. Is all of a sudden, you are going to have currency being printed to basically offset the rising cost of inflation. That's going to decredit, that's going to destabilize the currency market, the bond market's gone, and then everything's gone. I mean, then you're going to the bank and the bank says, we don't have any money. We have no money. And here is the grift. Here is the ripoff. Without a doubt in my mind, they will manipulate these markets. They drop the interest rate. They'll borrow a bunch of money, do these market manipulations, give the money back, have very little interest on it, make a mint. And then when the markets do close and collapse, Trump basically resigns, hands the country back to Vance, calling it the Biden's depression. and then he runs out of the country with as much money as he can carry. And basically, then the Republicans are like, well, we can't extradite him back for all this theft. Exactly. This is really dangerous third rail stuff, okay? It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Gone, but you're still laying.
Hey, Minnesota, it's your favorite sexy liberal. Join me and my fellow cohorts in liberal justice weekdays from 8 to 11 on AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The month of July is National Carpet Cleaning Month, and because of that, Zero Res is offering a purchase of 3 rooms of carpet cleaned. Get 1 room free plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. Maybe you're having a barbecue for the 4th of July. We'll also have Aquatennial coming up in Minneapolis later this month. You want to make sure your home is fresh and clean for your friends and family coming over to celebrate. If your carpet's looking more like a snowbank in late March, muddy, crunchy, and kind of mysterious, it's time to call Zero Res, don't you know? These folks come in with their fancy schmancy ZR water. It's like regular water, but with a master's degree in cleanliness. Zero Res can handle it all. Carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, air ducts, basically every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. So it's time to call the cleaning pros at Zero Res today. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 85, tonight cloudy with a low around 69, and Friday showers and storms with a high near 84. Grab a tray at Cafe Latte's Cafeteria and select from a wide variety of soups and sandwiches. The bakery has fresh baked bread daily, along with cakes and more. And the Pizza and Wine Bar features gourmet pizzas that pair perfectly with their 30-plus wines by the glass. Located off Victoria and Grand, more at CafeLatte.com.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Broadcasting in the evenings on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, in the nighttime hours in Seattle, 1150 AM, KKNW, and of course in Minneapolis, St. Paul, on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. Good to have you with us today. By the way, I think we're going to go to that clear market manipulation to get the Brazil against the Brazilian currency, against the U.S. currency. I think we'll just call that the Brazilian wax job. There it is, squeaky clean. Well, not really, but yikes. And bite down on this stick. Sorry. 952-946-62. Not that I know anything about that. 952-946. Well, 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. Okay. It is. I'm going to start this next bit here, and this might take up the rest of this hour here, but we do still have some questions in regards to. We obviously we can talk about the cuts that Trump made to the NOAA and the National Weather Service, and the cutting off of satellite features. Yesterday, we had Dr. Joe on, and he said there was actually some modeling that showed this exact scenario happening, where this flooding happened and the Guadalupe River went over its banks, and hundreds of people, 100 people plus have died so far, and there's still a lot of people missing, a lot of kids. But one of the things that was pointed out was, wait a second here, there were warnings going on out. There's once again that the progressive down in Texas, in that area. She's saying, here it is, and I posted that link. Here is the National Weather Service. Everyone evacuate, get out of there. And yeah, I understand that sometimes, especially if you're in a dry wash area where you generally get that anytime there's a storm upstream, they might send out a warning. You still have to heed those warnings for a very legitimate reason, which we now see. You can't just shrug it off and walk away. So there are some questions I have in regards to not only the people, especially people responsible for other people. Did you not get these warnings? I mean, they were on the radio. If you have a weather radio, if you're in an area where you don't have reliable cell phone coverage, you should have a weather radio that would fire off if that stuff happened. I just don't understand it. I don't understand how the local authorities, if they all of a sudden knew that there was this torrential downpour and that these river waters were this river valley is going to get full very quickly, how are you not calling every camp and resort and campsite and sending a patrol vehicle out there and getting everyone out of there? And there are some questions that have to be answered. And I saw today, how in the world did this camp get the authority to build buildings on the floodplain itself? That's insanity. Who authorized that? I live in a river city. The Mississippi River flows through Minneapolis, St. Paul. They used to have people that resided right on the banks of the Mississippi River until a massive flood came through in the 1950s, and it was the Eisenhower administration said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. You have to be above the historic flood lines. So, and that's changed. And, you get that a lot of places now. How in the world did these camps and stuff have the ability to build buildings in the floodplain itself? That's like building a building on top of the San Andreas Fault and then being surprised that there's earthquakes. I mean, you of course not to do that. And that might be a Texas county zoning thing, which there are going to be some people asking some questions about. The people down there that have been hit by this tragedy, it is horrible. And as I have said, even though anytime a natural disaster hits a left-leaning area like a fire, a fire in California or flooding in New England or something of that nature, the first step from MAGA is stop wasting my taxpayer dollars. You people can die because you're a bunch of liberals. Meanwhile, I don't sign off on that. I believe that we should help everyone else, especially the same people who, after they say we should let the liberals die, saying we need help in there. We're all in this together. Remember that. Okay, fine. I believe in helping everyone out. Once again, I want to make sure I say this. I believe in helping everyone out. Apparently, not the same thing with the Trump administration. Because yesterday it came to light that Kristi Noem, who during this same time was doing more of her MAGA Barbie cosplay crap and debating what should be her her official portrait, had delayed sending help down to these poor victims for 3 days, 72 hours. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Noem did not authorize the deployment of the FEMA urban search and rescue teams in the Texas Hill County flood disaster until 72 hours after the crisis began. This follows rule changes that Noem, who is woefully incompetent in this position, imposed at her department that required a personal sign-off from Noem on any operation with an expense over $100,000, a figure so tiny it practically applies to any response to any significant emergency. This is her rule. And this happened, and she didn't immediately scramble back to her office and say, hey, I want to sign off on all these. Let me get signed and throw this stuff down here. No, she couldn't be bothered to go through when this had happened and go out and sign the forms to get FEMA down there, the search and rescue teams that they needed 3 days earlier that might have been able to save a few of these people's lives. Nope. In the past, FEMA would have swiftly staged these teams, which are specifically trained for situations including catastrophic floods, closer to the disaster zone in anticipation of urgent requests. Multiple agency sources had told CNN, even as Texas rescue crews raced to save lives, FEMA officials realized they needed NOAA's approval before sending those additional assets. She did not authorize FEMA's deployment of urban search and rescue teams until Monday, more than 72 hours after the flooding began. The flood, which swept away campers around the city of Kerrville in a notoriously flood-prone area in the Texas Hill Country, left over 100 people dead, including dozens of children, nearly 200 still missing. She just dropped the ball. She didn't do her job. These people came into power saying FEMA failed. Once again, I've talked about how in Asheville, North Carolina, last year in October, because they wanted to turn a natural disaster into a political thing, they had people screaming, FEMA's abandoning us, as they're standing in front of a FEMA tent. Because they just wanted to believe the narrative. And so they trusted Trump, who was lying to him then, and now is lying to him now, because they don't care about you. How else can I show it to you? You are suffering from this crisis. You need help from the federal government. They don't care about you. What they did care about was CNN's report on this. They lashed out at CNN after the network reported NOAA waited 3 days for resources to be dispersed. CNN reported citing 4 agency officials that the FEMA ran into immediate bureaucratic obstacles when it tried to respond to the floods, particularly NOAA's rule requiring mandatory sign-off on anything over 100K. Those approvals didn't arrive until more than 72 hours after the flood began. DHS, as opposed to, I don't know, hold MAGA Barbie there, who's out cosplaying. I don't want to stay away from that, but cosplaying a pretty bad person historically. How about I say it like that? Acting like she's the tough guy cowboy girl. I'm a tough guy Give me a dog, I'll take them to the gravel pit and put a bullet in their head. And a goat. And horses for some reason. That is who she is. Where's Cricket, Christy? DHS posted, and once again, there used to be a time where this was something only a deranged lunatic like Donald Trump would post, but this is an actually official post on a social media account from a government agency. This is a fake news lie from CNN. This reporting is unparalleled display of activist journalism and distracts from the robust, coordinated, blah, 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 blah. And Noam has said they saved over 900 plus lives. Basically, her attitude is anyone who didn't die due to her failure, she needs to be praised upon high as the savior of the 900 people who didn't drown. Forget about the people who are missing. Unbelievable. Another person that's missing is a guy, I swear to God, he looks like the villain that Scooby just pulled the mask out of. That's David Richardson. He's the head of FEMA. He does. Take a look at a picture of the guy. It's like, Farmer Jenkins. No, exactly. The administrator for FEMA appears to be missing. It's been nearly a week since the massive flood in southern Texas. Another flood has happened in New Mexico. Another tropical storm might bring floods to North Carolina over the past week. David Richardson, the agency's acting administrator, who has been on the site of one of the nation's deadliest floods in the U.S. in the past 25 years, upending the long practice of, has not been on the site of one of the nation's deadliest floods in the U.S. in the past 25 years, upending a long practice of FEMA leaders making themselves viable when there are major disasters. Richardson made news when he first came into office by admitting he didn't know there was a hurricane season. Speaking to MSNBC on Wednesday, a former FEMA administrator, Deanne Criswell, outlined what she would do in the role if she were still in it. It involved being on the ground and coordinating with local and state officials, as well as aid groups. However, she confessed that Richardson's lack of experience means his absence isn't necessarily a bad thing. Well, I think one of the biggest things first is if he doesn't have any actual emergency management experience, and so he's hopefully relying on experts that are still there at FEMA and getting input into what they need to do to be able to support the community. But having leadership from FEMA on the ground, or at least communication from state officials, is critical. She also noted that every local official had access to call her directly when needed. Kristi Noem has transitioned from participating in ice raids into observing the damage caused by the floods, and she renewed her calls this week to completely eliminate FEMA altogether. The call is coming from inside your own mega house. The entire agency needs to be eliminated as it existed to remade into a responsive agency. Okay, it was a responsive agency until you guys, and it still was under Joe Biden, even though you guys said they failed us. It was a great response. I know two people that work for FEMA. They were on the ground. They're immediately. It was a good organization. You guys have decided to basically blank it up and are acting like you're trying to fix this by basically getting rid of it. We as a federal government don't manage these disasters. The state does, she says. We come in and support them. That's exactly what we did here. Well, 72 hours later. I mean, for God's sakes, who is going to ride that horse, Kristi? Did you shoot that horse, by the way? I'm going to ask you that. Did you put a bullet in that horse's head because, you know, it got kind of uppity with you? It's, by the way, it's also, she basically gave the canned response from the Department of Homeland Security from their media people. DHS and its components have taken an all-hands-on-deck approach to the Texas flooding, said Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin. She referred to help from the U.S. Coast Guard and Custom and Border Protection. Have you thought about putting FEMA in there? I mean, they have the experience with this stuff. And yeah, and I get it. You want to take all the money from FEMA and give it to billionaires, and really at the end of the day, jam it in your own pockets and then say, I'm leaving and moving to Bulgaria for a reason. And that's fine. Fine. Belarus. We love Belarus. Sure you do. And so you can't get extradited. But the reality is that this agency worked, and you guys are not going to give the states any help at all. You've already shown that in numerous cases since Trump came to office, absolutely refusing to help even the reddest of districts. This is just on par for you guys, and you guys suck. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Rudy Luther Toyota is the dealer you can trust. Go to rudyluthertoyota.com to browse their inventory of new and certified pre-owned vehicles. Style, performance, and reliability. You can find it all at Rudy Luther. With every new and certified pre-owned vehicle, you'll get a Luther Advantage card. Save 10 cents per gallon at the pump and get $6 Works car washes at Holiday Station stores. That's right. You can get a great vehicle and help stretch your budget even further. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
When was the last time you had your roof inspected for extreme weather and hail damage? This is Chad, owner of AM 950, to talk about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If you've noticed new roofing projects in your neighborhood, your home was likely hit by hail last summer and experienced damage. Snap Construction is helping homeowners like you, and they're the roofing specialists I trust. They are the most well-reviewed contractor in the Twin Cities and have a ton of positive customer reviews from homeowners just like you. Even better, Snap Construction's installations are backed by a lifetime warranty, so you know you're dealing with a qualified roofing expert. You want to work with a company that will be here for a long time after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims and will help you through the process. Do yourself a favor and get a free roofing inspection so you have the facts and peace of mind you deserve. Call Snap Construction today at 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP, or visit snapconstruction.com.
End-of-life decisions are not easy to make. Hi, I'm Mary T. of Mary T. Hospice Care. It's important to make sure that this difficult time is meaningful and comforting to you and your loved ones. Our hospice team provides an individualized program of physical, emotional, spiritual, and practical care so your loved one is comfortable and not in pain. At Mary T. Hospice, we understand that choosing the right hospice care provider can be overwhelming, but we're here to assist you. Learn more today at marytinc.com.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
Hi, I'm Scott Shambot from Shambot Family Dentistry. We're the fear-free, shame-free dental office. If you're having a dental emergency, we'll try and get you in the same day you call because we don't like to see anyone in pain. And we'll help you get through every appointment in the most pain-free way possible. As my daughter Rachel says,
if you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you to determine whether or not this happened because FEMA didn't get in there 72 hours earlier, or if this happened because FEMA or Kristi Noem sent these people in with a purpose. I'll let you go back and forth here, but there was a group of people that did go down to help some of the victims. A U.S. racist and neo-fascist hate group that has become a public fixture in recent years descended on Central Texas in a stunt that claims to be part of disaster relief efforts underway after the devastating flash floods hit the region last week. Patriot Front, founded following the deadly 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, after which its leader, Thomas Rousseau, a Texan, was later charged for his participation, has claimed on its Telegram app channel that it has shown up in the areas near Camp Mystic where 27 young campers lost their lives. Patriot Front is here in Central Texas, Rousseau declares in a video statement, amid the backdrop of what sounds like buzzing chainsaws in the flood-ravaged community, responding to the flooding, which has destroyed the communities and has taken the lives of scores of Americans. Rousseau is going on to claim that his so-called activists are distributing supplies to survivors, but clarifies that his group is prioritizing their people and European peoples in those operations. Wow. The far-right compulsion to disguise racist actions under the terms of humanitarianism has its root in, Hitler. In Mein Kampf, he prescribes to his readers to take pride in keeping their collective community strong as a not-so-hidden metaphor for cleansing what he deemed other undesirable peoples. Similarly, American hate groups, Second Amendment-oriented militias, and neo-Nazi street gangs have long shown up as community relief cadres across the U.S. in sort of a ploy to whitewash their images as dangerous forces in the country. After hurricanes struck the Carolinas and Florida in 2024, Patriot Front also exploited the moment during the particularly polarizing presidential campaign, showing up to clear debris badly hit communities. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why they wanted people to believe FEMA wasn't there in North Carolina, is so that they could portray themselves as the white racists are here to help the white people. That's what you can depend on. They tried to scare off FEMA. That is actually a now known. So, yeah. This is Heidi Birich, a co-founder of the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. It's not surprising to see Patriot Front inserting itself in disaster relief in Texas. She noted that everyone from Klansmen to armed militias have seen value in public appearances providing disaster aid. Now, I'm going to say this. Do we know for sure that Kristi Noem didn't call up Patriot Front and tell them, I'm going to hold back FEMA so that the locals distrust the federal government? You get down there, find the whiteys, because she's South Dakota, find the whiteys and help out the whiteys. And now all of a sudden, how dare you act like I wasn't here? We sent the Klan on in here. Or actually Patriot Front, but you get my point. I think this is... But you see, as you wonder why this stuff comes about. I mean, you had the story, what was it, Veterans on Patrol is trying to blow up the Doppler radars in Oklahoma because they think they're evil. Amid false conspiracy theories about the floods in Texas being part of some sort of cloud seeding attack. Seriously, these people are broken. The founder of Veterans on Patrol, Michael Lewis Author Meyer, confirmed to 9 News, KWTV, they were absolutely working to target Oklahoma radars. Jesus. Are they there for FEMA? Who knows? The comments come days after an individual's vandalized 9 News weather radar. The sign they found posted near one Oklahoma weather radar claims that Doppler radars are being targeted by victims of U.S. military weather experimentation. The militia calls it Operation Leaning Tower. The Southern Poverty Law Center classified these people as anti-government loon balls, or they said a militia. I'll call them the loon balls, which also promotes anti-immigrant ideas as well as anti-indigenous, anti-Semitic, anti-Catholic, and anti-Mormon falsehoods. Hey, let me tell you something. As a veteran, you know there's a lot of indigenous people, Jewish people, Catholic people, Mormon people, and immigrant people who have fought for America, you amazing jackasses. Okay, never mind. I mean, it's lost on them. They're trying to Don Quixote the weather Doppler. So, but once again, where does this kind of psycho thing come from? Well, we don't have to go too deep into this one. Why? The EPA agency administrator, Lee Zeldin, that guy, just gave a big nod to conspiracy theorists on Thursday when he posted a message in support for Americans who have questions about geoengineerings and contrails. The quote, this is from Twitter. For years, people who have asked questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified by the media and their own government. This ends today. No, okay. Listen here, clown car. You nutbags brought this stuff to other people, and other people did take you seriously, and they looked into it, and they said, hey, there's nothing here. But you didn't want to hear that, and you kept screaming, no, you're lying, and they said, no, we'll do another study, and they do another study, and they say, see, nothing here, and you said, no, I want my reality to be the reality, and that's when they said, okay, you need to go away now because you're a loon ball. These people, I mean, Health and Human Services is full of them, are people that have made a mint off of being this obscure, obtuse albatross of an idea that is loony to begin with. But they make money off of it because they push it, giving people who want to believe in stupid things the fine, fertile soil to grow their stupid thing crops. And this is the head of the EPA who now has on their website chapters about this, although he says, hey, we're not doing it. Oh, okay, thanks, Lee. Dear Lord. Yeah. Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next.
Hi, Penny here from Nightingale in Minneapolis. Exciting news.
All righty. DB Cooper, the Ice Holes, and its American Bootleg. Let me know when you're ready to go.
All right, we're ready.
All right. The place for live music is the Park Tavern. Live music is taking over the Park Tavern's dog-friendly patio. Head over on Tuesday, July 15th. It's DB Cooper. Wednesday, July 16th. It's the Ice Holes. And on Thursday, July 17th, it's American Bootleg. Music runs from 5:30 to 8 p.m. and reservations for groups of 8 or more are recommended. And the Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces for small and large groups with no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. On Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park, outdoor live music is back at the Park Tavern.
Okay. $29.50.
Children who will be affected. Marcela Sanchez reports there's also a 7-day stay to allow for appeal.
This lawsuit is among numerous cases challenging Trump's order, which would deny citizenship to children born to parents living in the U.S. illegally or temporarily. Several judges have issued nationwide injunctions, but the Supreme Court limited rulings and gave lower courts 30 days to act. Since then, opponents have quickly returned to court to try to block it. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
It wasn't a record, but Russia again pounded Ukraine's capital with drones and missiles overnight. At least 2 people killed. Meantime, Ukraine's European allies are stepping up plans to provide troops for a post-ceasefire force in Ukraine, agreeing to set up a headquarters in Paris for a rapid deployment after hostilities end. Of note, a U.S. delegation present at the meeting for the first time. The Trump administration's on the attack against Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
The president has urged Powell's dismissal for not cutting interest rates.
I call him too late. T-O-O, too late, like Too Tall Jones for the Dallas Cowboys.
Today, White House Budget Chief Russ Vought suggests Powell misused government money in renovating the Fed's headquarters. In a letter to Powell, Vought calls the renovation plan an ostentatious overhaul and submitted a series of questions about whether the project complied with federal standards. He also suggests Powell misled Congress by saying the buildings never had a serious renovation. Vought writes a 1999 to 2003 update of its roof and building systems counts as a comprehensive renovation. Sagar Magani, Washington.
On Wall Street, stocks closed higher with the S&P and the Nasdaq again hitting new highs. The Dow gained 192 points. This is AP News.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. Just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
I didn't ask to be thrown in the streets with nowhere to go, but I did ask for help, and Covenant House was there for me.
1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year. For these kids who didn't ask to be put in this unthinkable situation, Covenant House is there, providing hot meals, a safe place to sleep, medical care, and love.
They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
To learn more, go to safeplacetosleep.org today.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
Rudy Luther Toyota has a great way for you to purchase your next vehicle. It's the Toyota Smart Path. You can shop at the dealership or on your couch. Shop smarter by saving time, and remember, they'll have the best prices and no surprises. You can browse the available vehicles, use the Smart Path payment estimator to customize your own payments, apply for financing, and then finalize your purchase. Smart Path is the smartest path to your new vehicle. Check it out online at rudyluthertoyota.com or stop by Rudy Luther Toyota, 5 miles west of Minneapolis on 394.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies today with a high near 85, tonight cloudy with a low around 69, and Friday showers and storms with a high near 84. Grab a tray at Cafe Latte's Cafeteria and select from a wide variety of soups and sandwiches. The bakery has fresh baked bread daily, along with cakes and more. And the Pizza and Wine Bar features gourmet pizzas that pair perfectly with their 30-plus wines by the glass. Located off Victoria and Grand, more at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Robert Burrill is going to be kind enough to join us coming up here a little bit later on. He's going to be playing some concerts, the Comedy Underground, I believe, tomorrow and on Saturday. So we'll chat with him coming up here a little bit. This is weird. Now, there was a time, I'm going to get into a weather story here. I was driving down 169 and I was at the exit for Excelsior Boulevard. And I think it was like 50 degrees that day. And it was relatively clear. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't see anything. It wasn't snowing. It just got really foggy. And I noticed that the temperature gauge in my car dropped down to like 35 degrees. And it was really weird. And by the time I got maybe a half a mile from that, it was back up to where it was. And I was just like, what in the world is that? I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's, nature is weird sometimes. This happened in the other way before Thursday. This is before sunrise last Thursday. That would have been on the 3rd of July. It's a rare weather phenomenon known as a heat burst occurred in a remote area of northwestern Minnesota. At an automated weather station near the town of Fertile, Minnesota. Hello there. Sorry. The temperature rapidly rose from 72 degrees at 3 a.m. to 93 degrees at 3:40 a.m. 21 degrees hotter, and it's 92. It's 93 in the middle of the night. At the same time, the dew point went from the upper 60s to the low 40s, a staggering drop before normalizing back into the 60s. Just 10 miles south of that area, the weather station in Waukon, Minnesota, the heat burst did not occur. While it was 93 in Fertile, the temperature there stayed in the low 70s. According to the NOAA, the heat burst is a relatively rare atmospheric nighttime event characterized by gusty winds, a rapid increase in surface temperature, and a decrease in surface dew point associated with a dissipating thunderstorm. On occasion, the burst can be associated with damaging winds strong enough to rip roofs off of buildings. The maximum wind gust at Fertile on the weather monitor was 30 miles an hour at 3:32. A similar heat burst is documented around 2 a.m. The weather station near Pillsbury in eastern North Dakota. I will say this. I mean, it's not too often you see this happen in Minnesota. The weather in the Dakotas is weird, man. Have you seen any of those days where they'll have like a 40-degree drop in like 2 hours?
Yeah, I think the record, they were, can't remember what year it was in Spearfish. They were below 0, and then they went up to 45 in a matter of a few minutes.
Yeah, they get some weird weather out in the Dakotas. Well, and let's just be honest, weird people too. I'm going to take some letters on that one, aren't I? I think I am. Well, there are. I mean, hey, there are weird people everywhere, but no, that is some crazy stuff, man. I hope you didn't have your windows open sleeping. Can you imagine what that would have been like? Yeah, it's time to turn on the sauna and take a nap. 952-946-6205. Also, I wanted to take a moment here to, I haven't talked about Michelle Tafoya lately. This story popped up. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya spends a lot of time throughout the day engaging with her followers on social media. But one photo she recently shared got some extra engagement for what might have been the wrong reason. On Tuesday, Tafoya took to Twitter to share a photo of a note that she claims was given to her by a flight attendant. It appeared to be handwritten by a fan who said, Tafoya brings them a little hope in what seems a dark world. Thank you to the flight attendant who handed me this on the flight, Tafoya wrote in the message. So, yeah, I mean, you're putting it out there. Now, I would be the first to say, a handwritten note? Really? That's actually somewhat legible in this day and age? Okay, fine. All right, whatever. But there is one slight issue that some users quickly noticed. This was, once again, this was on Tuesday. This wasn't the first time that Tafoya had actually shared that photo. Okay, this is just getting lazy. On some social media sleuths pointed out, Tafoya had actually shared the exact note once before. This time, she shared it nearly identical photo to the same one that was taken back in May of 2023. This is May 18th, 2023. She posted the same picture while on the, or nearly the same picture, while on a flight to NYC to appear on Gutfeld. I was handed this note by a flight attendant. I won't reveal the person's name. Does it rhyme with Tishel Mafoya? Okay, I'm just going to ask this. But this made my day, to say the least. This was May 18th, 2023, so 2 years ago. As a result, a slew of users on social media have called Tafoya out for seemingly trying to farm some engagement. You should at least delete the old one before you tell the same story again. At least you used a slightly different photo. Michelle, how many times is this exact same flight attendant going to hand you the exact same notes? Wrote another. Wow. Hey, I get it. You want to seem like you're relatable and stuff like that. I mean, and boy, when I hear I was going to Gutfeld, yeah, that's real relatable for no one outside of MAGA base. But I mean, this is I'm presuming we're going to be hearing how she's a victim because we're reporting on this story and her mistake. But it's this narrative that we have to paint ourselves as the heroes. Heroes. All right. No word yet if she's. I mean, I was wondering if she might try to run for Senate seat. I don't. So far, we haven't really. She hasn't announced or anything like that. I didn't miss anything when I was on vacation. I don't think. I don't know. She was one of the people that was being put out there as possibly doing it. It's stories like this, though, that are going to have you giving a hard time getting traction. But it does kind of, once again, prove the point. If you're one of these right-wing MAGA people, even the ones you think are somewhat sane, they're kind of detached from reality. They are kind of detached from reality. I don't know. I mean, how did... Were both of them made up? I'm going to just... I'll ask the question. Did anyone actually give you that note? Or is that... What's the case? Why... It's just, that's kind of sad. I'm going to turn my attention to actual news here because there's something that's happened, which I have spent the day looking at looking at the news sites in town, looking at the 4 TV stations, and looking at the newspaper here in town and other news outlets in the state. And I'm stunned, I say, that so far nobody has picked up on this and reported on this. I actually got this story from Raw Story yesterday, and maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed this, but okay. Trump's Department of Justice is demanding that Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon, the Democrat, turn over the state's voter rolls. This according to a letter obtained by Democracy Docket. The letter cites that the Help America Vote Act, a law that was passed in 2002 that creates minimum standards for election administration, It says Minnesota has 30 days to turn over the information about process like voter registration, election security, and its vote by mail system. It was written by Maureen Reardon, acting chief of the voting section of the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. Funny story, she also has made similar demands for Colorado and Pennsylvania. The letter, of course, obviously caused some storm on social media. The DOJ swooping into Minnesota's voter rolls under the guise of HAVA oversight reeks of voter suppression, one commenter wrote. Minnesota's elections are a fortress of fairness. Instead of auditing others, maybe like the DOJ should clean up its own house. Minnesota's spotless record shows this is likely a power grab. I would agree with that. So the corruption continues. I hope that lawmakers are also looking at what this administration is doing, and they are doing everything possible to stop this madness from happening. Minnesota needs to tell them to blank all the way off, reads a comment from Blue Sky. I'll agree with that. I wonder who made that post. The final step of authoritarianism is to ensure the future elections are not free. This is where America is at. All right. Let's step back here for a quick second. Now, first of all, hey, right-wingers, you know how for years you guys used to scream about government databases? You guys, boy, when that finally came to fruition, you guys dropped the ball. I mean, for a bunch of clown cars who have sat there for the last 30 years trying to talk about how the jackbooted thugs, they want databases. And you guys did this all the time. I mean, usually it was associated with the Second Amendment stuff, but government databases are evil. Fight the government power. That was you guys. You guys did that for decades and decades and decades. And suddenly, Trump comes into power for a second term, and he allows Elon Musk to take all your health data, all your tax data, all your education data, all your financial data, and build a database. And now they want your database here out of the voting rights in Minnesota. And you guys are not saying a thing, man. I mean, you guys, this is your fight. This was your identity. This is who you guys are. How dare you take and make my information into a database? And now that they're doing it, you guys will, all right, if it's a database that will help the authoritarian regime I like. Wow. Whoever said authoritarian regimes were a bad thing? Yeah, come on, Matt. Yeah, exactly. This is obviously, I don't want them having my voting rights, my voting information. I don't want that. I mean, Minnesota, we've had Steve Simon on the air here multiple times. I consider him actually a friend. He is a guy who has taken his pride at having the most free and fair elections in this state, and the voter return results prove that. The fact that they are targeting Minnesota and Colorado and Pennsylvania tells me this is all about one thing: studying these rules to find some sort of loophole that they can shut down our elections, or at least disenfranchise millions of voters and turn the midterm elections and then the 2028 elections into fixed systems, like when you see an election in Russia and a Russian troop walks into the voting booth with you to see who you're voting for, then walks into the next voting booth to see who you're voting for. That's kind of what this seems to be like. This is that they're going to try to use this, that their whole goal, and once again, I want to make sure we understand that this is the official government doing this. They're doing something that is clearly political election engineering to try to basically get Colorado and Pennsylvania and Minnesota and prevent them from voting freely and saying, well, only votes from white people in rural communities will count. No votes at all from the metro area And, that's what it seems like they're trying to do. I have no faith in these people because there's no reason we have free and fair elections here in Minnesota. They're efficiently run. This is only about trying to find ways to disrupt our elections. That's the only thing that is going on here. It is, and by the way, and if they can't stop it, and it still is an overwhelming victory, does anyone put it past this administration to say, well, we need to throw out this last election and we need to start all over again, and we need to make sure that we kind of put the fingers on the scale? What will be interesting is, I've tried to figure out how they're going to do this with a guy like Governor Walz. Say Governor Walz decides he's going to run again. Are they just basically going to say, we're going to negate in that race alone, we're going to negate this precinct and this precinct and this precinct and this precinct and this precinct. Oh, and by the way, the Republican won. But in the next election, say it's for, Ilhan Omar's seat, then they'll basically say, well, we're actually going to have just for this race, we're going to discount this precinct and this precinct and this precinct and this precinct. Oh, and the Republican pulled a major upset in 5. Because I think that's what they're going to try to do. I just don't know how they're not going to be laughed out of court for trying to do that. Well, of course, the Supreme Court will say, we got to allow a little fraud in these elections, don't we? I think that's where they're going with it. This is clearly an attempt by the administration to upend our elections and hand Minnesota to Republicans. Yeah. At any point, the newspaper or the 4 television stations, you want to run with this and say, whoa, what's this about now? Because this does seem like authoritarianism. They can't win in Minnesota unless they cheat. So they're now at the point of saying, well, I'm going to get the DOJ to help us cheat. And yeah. And once again, what's going to be interesting is that elections in this country are run by the state. So they would have to go to the state Supreme Court. So they also have to override that and get it up into the biased Supreme Court so that Gorsuch and Alito and RV can all, run, get 2 more of those people and say, yep, we're going to throw out the election and we're going to appoint a bunch of Republicans in charge. The Republicans won every office, and that's that. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? I'd say there's a 20% chance they'll try to do that. At least a 20% chance. They'll just say, we're going to throw out the election and just install Republicans in every seat. And then maybe allow like some guy who's like Parks and Rec in Brooklyn Park or something like that. That Democrat won. See, how can you say we're biased? We had the one Democrat Park and Rec guy won. So clearly fair elections. Anytime you guys want to start talking about it, you don't even have to bring my name up. Just go with it. Please, for God's sakes, please. For God's sakes, please. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show on your Thursday. I'll never forget. I was driving my Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota, and I was hit at 35 miles an hour, rear-ended square flush. If not for the structural integrity of my Sienna, I wouldn't be here right now. There's a lot I can say about Rudy Luther Toyota, about their fantastic service department and their great selection, but being able to say your car saved my life is the best endorsement I can make. Toyotas from Rudy Luther Toyota are my highest recommendation. Get one today and tell them me, Matt McNeil, told you to stop on in. Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Greg Bakken here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
July is the annual store-wide sale at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Come see our diverse selection of wood, gas, or electric fireplace products for indoor and outdoor living. And right now, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces can assure you the best price of the season on every product in the store. Let Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces help you choose and experience the joy of sitting by a fire.
Summer is a great time to install your fireplace. You can find your perfect fireplace and have it installed and ready before the cold weather hits again. If you already have a wood fireplace, consider a fireplace insert. Come and see the entire selection at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces on East Franklin and Riverside in Minneapolis. They will create a fireplace that works for you. Efficient, clean burning, and environmentally smart.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, since 1977, out of the ordinary products and services to make fire work for you.
The Zero Res Master Certified Area Rug Cleaning Team in St. Louis Park is having the biggest cleaning sale of the year. Clean one rug and get 20% off. 2 rugs, 25% off. 3 area rugs get 50% off your area rug cleaning purchase. Pickup and delivery options are available. We're getting into the heat of the summer. You're going to be having barbecues, friends and family over at your house. Your rug called that's tired of being stomped on, spilled on, sneezed on, and ignored like a salad at a barbecue. We treat your rugs gently, even the fancy ones you bought on vacation and immediately regretted. Wool, synthetic, braided, patterned, passed down from grandma. If it lays flat and collects dirt, we clean it. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 9520-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Spell it backward or forward spells the same. It still spells, dang, that rug looks good. Zero Res.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. By the way, remind you, Native Roots Radio is coming up here after my show, 5 o'clock hour. Fantastic show, Native American News. And the only place you're going to find it is right here on AM 950. It's fantastic stuff. Then tonight, Greg Bach and, of course, Ghostbox Radio at 10 o'clock tonight. We've got a full lineup. Stay with us for the entire evening. At 10 o'clock, though, it is Ghostbox there. Tonight, author Tim Rayborn talks about his book, Northern Mythology, Tales from Norse, Finnish, and Sami Traditions. He is going to be chatting with Greg tonight. So catch that. Ghostbox Radio, 10 o'clock tonight as well. I mentioned in the first hour, Trump and this war on against imported copper. And I said, you know, if you were to immediately start digging with shovels right now, it'd still be 3 to 4 years before you'd be able to really process any metals. It'd take a long time. You've got to get foundries up. You got to get all this stuff going. And you got to start digging holes. This is part of the problem that they have, is that they want to get into Minnesota. Now, I have said this before. Minnesota just has to pass a simple law, which requires the international mining conglomerate's parent company, like Antofagasta, or the Canadian companies or the Swiss companies or the Chinese companies, that if they build a mine in Minnesota, that the local outfit, the local front is not responsible, that no matter what, the major international mining corporation has to clean up any environmental mess that's created by their mine. Seems like a reasonable decision. That would end all discussion about mines in Minnesota, because these international mining companies know it's going to pollute the living daylights out of everything. And if they would have to clean it up, they don't want any part of it, because they want to take all the money back to their whatever foreign country their mining company is from. Trump went on to say he wants to push for this mining in Minnesota. The Twin Metals mine between Ely and Babbitt would produce 20,000 tons of ore per day. This, and by the way, this is the Star Tribune just going with their numbers as actual fact. 20,000 tons per day, including copper, nickel, cobalt, platinum. The second, North Met, would be an open pit mine near in Babbitt. The mine plan calls for producing 32,000 tons of ore, mostly copper, each day. The third, a Talon Metals Tamarack mine, would be an underground project in Aiken County as part of the state. Without any large-scale mining, it would extract 3,300 tons per day of copper, nickel, and platinum group metals. According to proposals, the mines would provide hundreds of jobs, provide copper and metal high demand. Okay, so once again, they're just going with their totals they're going to pull out of the ground, making it sound, see, it's going to be tons of this stuff. There's no guarantee it's that much down there. They know some of it's down there. They don't know how much. But I want to also go with the Star Tribune, once again reporting hundreds of jobs. Now, Star Tribune. Tourism, hospitality are the biggest employers of northern Minnesota. By far. In the entire northern Minnesota tier, 125,000 jobs are dedicated to tourism and hospitality. 125,000 jobs. A lot of them are based on the pristine natural wilderness we have in northern Minnesota, such as Voyageurs National Park and the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, the Superior National Forest, the beautiful North Shore. We have these areas that bring people up because they're beautiful. 125,000 jobs, which will not exist if these ham-handed international mining companies that do not give a rat's caboose about the state of Minnesota and what they leave behind are allowed to, they'll be gone. Those jobs will disappear if those companies come in here and pollute and destroy the natural beauty that is northern Minnesota. Now, you guys keep saying hundreds of jobs, which, by the way, most of those jobs will be minimum wage job guys from Oklahoma shipped in here, not good union jobs. They just won't be. It'll be minimum wage guys from Oklahoma because they'll get that, they'll get that bypass. And then this is hundreds of jobs. It will cost you 125,000 jobs. Anyone that thinks this is a good idea is a fool, unless the international mining companies agree to clean up any mess they create, regardless of who eventually owns the company. Yeah, you can't allow this to happen because these people, they don't care. Pete Stauber would poison a lake or a river himself if it meant he got a little bit of more accolades, you know what I'm talking about, from the international mining group. So screw him. He's biased. And of course, he would be the first one in 20 years when it's discovered that all the rivers and lakes in the boundary waters are polluted, saying, they lied to me. By the way, I'm never coming back to Minnesota. I got a lobbying gig out in D.C. now. My kid got a job working for the international mining company. Who could have seen that? Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're a fool if you let them come in here and do it, because it will destroy Minnesota. And the people that want to push this do not give a rat's caboose about Minnesota and the environmental safety of this state. We'll take a break. Come on back. Robert Burrell joins us when we do return. We'll talk about his comedy shows coming up this weekend. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Get up, stand up.
The place for live music is the Park Tavern. Park Tavern has delicious food and great bowling, and now the Park Tavern's dog-friendly patio is open and waiting for you. And make sure you catch the live music on the patio. On Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights from 5:30 to 8 p.m., live music awaits you with the Park Tavern's full menu available. Reservations for groups of 8 or more are recommended. And the Park Tavern offers private and semi-private spaces for small and large groups with no room fees and no minimum spending requirements. On Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park, live music and outdoor fun are back at the Park Tavern.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
It's no secret that medical care costs are soaring, with nursing home and skilled nursing care costs being some of the highest. You don't have to deplete your savings in order to receive long-term care. At Schroman Law, we work with families to develop and implement strategic planning for medical assistance for long-term care, for assisted living, nursing home care, or home-based care. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Summer is going fast, but Next Chapter Booksellers has everything you need to keep up with your summer reading. From the hottest new titles to timeless classics, Next Chapter Booksellers has something for any taste. Their friendly staff are great at making recommendations for the perfect summer read for you or your loved ones. Plus, Next Chapter Booksellers has a wide variety of puzzles and games for those rainy days. So keep up with your summer reading at Next Chapter Booksellers off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and storms possible late tonight with a low of 68. Then Friday, rain and storms expected with a high of 86. Grab a tray at Cafe Latte and pick from their award-winning selections of soups, salads, sandwiches, and desserts. Cafe Latte is at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul or at cafelatte.com.
You're listening to AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Good to have you with us today. 952-946-6205. A man I have been proud to have on my show for 15 years is kind enough to join us yet once again. Robert Burrill is comedian extraordinaire. He is going to be over at the Comedy Corner Underground. We don't ever get to talk about Seven Corners that much anymore, man. It's over in Seven Corners. He's going to be there tomorrow night and on Saturday. One performance each night at the Comedy Corner Underground. I'll put a link out for the tickets a little bit later on. Robert Burrill, kind enough to join us. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Matt. What have you been up to? Oh, yeah, that's it. My brain, nothing up there. It just bounces around.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can't believe it's been 15 years already. That's my appearances on this show are old enough to date Matt Gaetz. You know, who would have thought that time passes so quickly, you know?
So how come you look so good and I look like the bridge troll, man? What the hell happened to me?
Sunscreen. I think it's sunscreen. I remember looking up Paul Rudd's secret and he's like, I just wear sunscreen. And I was like, maybe I'll try that. And I think if it works for Paul Rudd, I think it'll work for me.
I was part of that generation where they'd put me out in like a little prison playpen in the driveway, and they'd kind of roll me over as like they were cooking a pig. It's a little red on this side, I'd get a little bit of red on the other side. I come in looking like a freaking lobster.
Smoking and drinking and Who do you think was like the first? Who do you think was like the first person that like aged really well, where people realized like it could be done? Because maybe like a Katharine Hepburn kind of thing, or like Paul Newman. Because who do you think? Who do you think was like the first person in their 50s to not just like horrify people in person with like how badly they treated their body?
They look like the neighbor from There's Something About Mary. No, I think it was 1970s. I mean, they all looked. I mean, Robert Mitchum and like Dean Martin. They all look much more weathered, like a sequoia back then. And today it's like, I was looking at a picture of, the guy that just died, Michael Madsen. He was 67. He actually looked really good. And I'm like, okay, so sunscreen does work. Taking care of yourself does work.
Well, and it's funny too, because like Dean Martin and those guys look like that. And that was before high def, where like you see them on TV and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not. No, put those guys on high def and it would be like the moon,
They look like German puppet shows. It's like, whoa, God. You, of course, have you been touring around? I mean, you of course doing shows here. I've been seeing you do some shows here.
Yeah, I was up north in my hometown of Warroad, Minnesota, last week. Yeah, and I did some shows at a brewery up there, and then Sportsman's Lodge in Badette, which I don't play a lot of Sportsman's Lodge. I'm not much of a sportsman. I hit a pheasant once with my Buick LeSabre, going about 35 miles an hour back to college at Bemidji, but otherwise, I barely qualify.
Well, it must be to a point. I mean, like you said, you did go to BSU. It must be nice getting back up there because, obviously in this time of year, you get the crowds. I mean, a brewery up there this time of year, I imagine it was kind of packed, man. Nicely done.
Yeah, and part of it too is the people that know me from this show or some of the jokes and stuff was like, oh boy, how could it? And like I don't touch pot. Like a part of it, like just know where you're at. If you're in the lion's den, you joke about dogs. Like that's just kind of, you joke about your cat's den. I don't know that was a bad riff, but you just entertain the people that are coming to see you. They pay to see me. I'll just do jokes they want to hear. So I didn't do any of my Trump getting shot stuff and all that. I kept that on the back burner. And it worked. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, brewery people love laughing at jokes. So it was a no-brainer. And part of it was like, because I was thinking, well, maybe I could find a part-time, work for a day or two. I'm like, no, I have a skill, like just use the skill that you have. And when combined with alcohol, a lot of enjoyment can be had.
Nothing makes me a better speaker than being around people that are hitting the open bar. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep.
Here's my kind of sounds.
Well, and the problem, there were a few people that told me afterwards, and I think this is the social media thing, is like they wanted to get another drink or use the bathroom, but they were afraid I was going to make fun of them because of all the like heckle stuff you see on social media or, TikTok and Instagram. And so a lot of people think that that's what stand-up comedy is. It's just a guy crapping on people for what they do or whatever, and they're afraid to even move. And it's like, no, I have my jokes. I'm a writer. I write jokes. So it's like, this is my set was going to be my set before I came here.
Mm-hmm. There are comedians that you bring that up. There are comedians where, and I'll say it bluntly. I mean, sure, sometimes there's gold that happens in the audience. I think that sometimes happens with it's like Patton Oswalt and stuff like that, where there'll be something in the audience and it ends up being a good bit and it goes there. I think most of the time I see a comedian trying to tackle it. Oh, you're going to the bathroom. It's like, okay, if you don't have the good material, don't just try to do observational comedy as it's happening live, because I think, not as you said, I think one, it kind of freaks the audience out a little bit that I'm strapped to the chair now for the next 60 minutes for sure. But as well, I think it's also it's never as good as when you write stuff, and you write stuff and it's really good.
Thank you. You probably find this amusing. The worst example of this, he didn't do a lot of crowd work, but this guy is he's been a road comic, and I don't know his actual name. I don't know if anyone does. He uses a moniker, and I first saw him when Lester opened for him at the New Hope Cinema Grill, probably even before I started coming on your show, or not too long afterwards. And his name was the Disgruntled Clown. And this guy probably has felons. I mean, he's probably on the John Wayne Gacy track and just stayed on a little before, exiting off to Murderville or whatever, like just stayed on a little for like 2 more exits in the stand-up comedy, because he would dress like Gene Simmons ate all the other members of Kiss, and he would have a super soaker. And if people got up to use the bathroom, he would just squirt them with the super soaker. Like it was a horrible act. I don't know. I think people were just scared of him, so they booked him. I remember Mike he drove a hearse, and yeah, Mike was having a field day making, just to me, not to him, because he wanted to survive. But like, that was a little insight into like the other side of comedy you don't see. We're like, oh, there are some scary degenerate psychos in this field.
Yeah, I was almost John Wayne Gacy, but I wanted a rec room in the basement. I didn't want to bury bodies down there, so I drew the line there.
I have too many knickknacks. I need the floor space for not people. Yeah.
Robert Burrell kind enough to join us. The other thing that makes you smart about going north, God, man, there's nothing. I mean, I've had to go down and visit family in Arizona, in South Carolina, in Florida, in summer. As a comedian, man, do you try to avoid the southern tier when it's 109 degrees outside and just brutal?
Yeah, for the most part, I have. There was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I did laughs in Tucson, Arizona in the summer, and I'll never make that mistake again. I don't think I left the Airbnb except to do the shows. And I am kind of a light jacket guy, and I find it very hard just to perform in sleeves. I need the light jacket. I don't like having a lot of things in my pockets just to walk anyway. I like a light jacket. A good fall weather's perfect for me, so I don't like having it. So I put them in the jacket, but I couldn't. It was, I mean, the shows were fine, but I was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable heat, and that was kind of my first experience with that. Because I'm not in it a lot of clubs in the Southwest, so it really wasn't necessarily an issue before that. But yeah, it's like walking out and then just like right into a mouth, like just right into an old person's mouth, and there's no getting out of it.
Here comes Elwyn.
Like it's like being a Werther's original in a senior living center. Just kill me now.
Yikes. Okay, brilliant. Robert, since you are in friendly confines here, if you so go there, there is so much to choose from this current administration and current president. Is there something that has caught your focus, that got your attention as far as the craziness that is this administration so far, 6 months in?
I mean, a lot of it, I'm trying to shy away from a lot of the current events now for my own mental health. I mean, I am who I am, so like I'll pay attention, but like I used to like seek out the news and then try to make it funny, and like now I mean, if there's a silly thing, if like I don't have any jokes for it yet, but being able to keep the shoes on at the airport is nice. That seems like it's 20 years too late. Like I don't know how. That isn't, although one guy fails at Schuba because he didn't even succeed, right? Didn't they catch him?
Yeah, they caught him. Apparently he started doing the Batman villain thing and started to announce here's my plan, and it's like everyone talked to the guy.
The disgruntled clown did that too. That was also part of his shtick. There's no way he can get on an airplane. I find that very hard he's still on no-fly list. He was on a no-fly list before 9/11. That's how freaky this guy was. But the shoe thing helped me out. The thing that I think is really funny lately is the fact that like now, who is it? Pam Bondi is like, yeah, there's no Epstein list. And it was like, you like ran on an Epstein list. And now it's like, hey, can we get back to stuff that matters? And like just pissing off his base to no end.
Oh God.
Which I think is funny because like essentially like they're upset that there aren't more pedophiles, right? Like that's I wanted more celebrity. Well, sorry, the celebrities are into adults. No, they're not. They're into my 14-year-old daughter. Like, no, sorry, this isn't. I don't know what you thought was there, but
Pam Bondi said it was on her desk. I have the list on my desk. And by the way, what's funny is to watch her friend.
I think what she meant.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was about to say, to her credit, I believe what she said was she has a DVD of the client list, which is a Jennifer Love Hewitt made-for-TV movie from 2010, where she's a Texas housewife that to supplement her income becomes a prostitute. I think it got decent Rotten Tomatoes, maybe like 40%, but I think that was where it started from.
God. Well, what the thing which is funny is they're so frantically. Everyone knows that Trump was friends with Epstein. He was on Epstein's child sex plane to the child sex island 7 times. We all know this. And all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't want them to know. We all know. As a matter of fact, I think his own base would love him even more if he just say, here's the list right here. Look at me, number one.
And that adds to, like, again, just the idiocy of it is like the guy that flew with him. Well, that doesn't count. But it's the people that didn't, or you can't prove flew with. Those are the ones it's the imaginary pedophiles that we have to watch out for, Matt. Not Dennis Hastert, who was convicted of it. Who Bush's Speaker of the House like 20 years ago. No, not the real ones. Just think of all the damage the imaginary ones could do. Oh my God.
Oh, the Icorns, heaven forbid. You are, of course, once again, Comedy Corner Underground. God, you are still one of the funniest damn people I've ever met in my life, man. You
Thanks,
you
man.
always get me rolling every time. Who are you with on the stage this weekend?
The opening act, a very funny local guy, Tito Maldonado, is there, and then I think we have a couple of guest sets lined up. One of them's Tommy Ryman, great comic, a bunch of dry bar specials. I think he's just going to pop in for a guest set. So you also never know if you might stop by and just do. But scheduled advertise is me and Tito this Friday and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Friday, Saturday, 8 p.m. The Comedy Corner Underground on Washington Avenue over in Seven Corners. I will get the link out for you there. If you haven't caught Burrill, go catch Burrill. He's brilliant. He's funny. And it's great to see you again, my friend.
Right back at you. And happy anniversary, Matt. I'm honored, and I love what you do, and it's more important now than ever. So thank you, and you keep it up as well.
Thank you very much. Robert Burrill, comedian extraordinaire, kind enough to join us. We'll take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
Do you have a loved one who is not receiving the care that they deserve at their current memory care facility? I'm Aiden Helene, Director of Community Relations here at the Welshire, and I meet with families every single day who are struggling with poor staffing, missed medications, poor personal cares, and an absence of engagement from consistent activities. 85% of our residents at the Welshire are coming from other memory care facilities that could not meet their care needs. Not all memory care is created equally. And if this is something your family is experiencing, I encourage you to come visit our community of well-being and see the Welshire difference, where we promise that your loved one will live with pride and dignity. The Welshire has 24/7 nursing, a robust activities team that provides activities 7 days a week. And when the diagnosis takes a 9-to-5 approach, so will we. Book a tour at welshiremn.com and see our community of well-being in action. That's welshiremn.com. Again, that's welshiremn.com.
This is Mitch, owner of Junk Masters. Feeling overwhelmed by clutter? Spring's the perfect time to reclaim your space and peace of mind. Renting a dumpster is costly, and it all ends up in the landfill. Just show us what goes. We give usable items a second life by donating them. No calling all over town trying to figure out who takes what. We do the legwork for you. Easy, cost-effective, and local. There's no obligation. Visit junkmastersmn.com today.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. The month of July is National Carpet Cleaning Month, and because of that, Zero Res is offering a purchase of 3 rooms of carpet cleaned. Get 1 room free plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. Maybe you're having a barbecue for the 4th of July. We'll also have Aquatennial coming up in Minneapolis later this month. You want to make sure your home is fresh and clean for your friends and family coming over to celebrate. If your carpet's looking more like a snowbank in late March, muddy, crunchy, and kind of mysterious, it's time to call Zero Res, don't you know? These folks come in with their fancy schmancy ZR water. It's like regular water, but with a master's degree in cleanliness. Zero Res can handle it all. Carpets, tiles, rugs, upholstery, air ducts, basically every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. So it's time to call the cleaning pros at Zero Res today. Schedule your appointment at ZeroResMinnesota.com or call 952-ZERO-RES and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. Okay, I gotta get this one in today. Holy God. Trump's America, people here. 2 years ago, Xavier Davis was boarding a Jefferson Lines bus to ride home from North Dakota to Minnesota when the driver told Davis and another passenger they needed to ride in the back of the bus. What? By the way, both passengers, black men. Yes. An argument ensued and the driver threatened to call the cops if the two men didn't, pipe down and move and sit back down. The men who did not know each other did so. 4 months later, Davis initiated a Minnesota Department of Human Rights investigation. A memorandum filed earlier this year by Commissioner Rebecca Lucero found probable cause that the driver discriminated against the passengers because of their race. Yeah. Oh my God. I can't. This is hard to even comprehend. This is still going on, but yeah, I guess this once again trumps America. This week, Davis filed a lawsuit against Jefferson Lines and the driver in Hennepin County District Court. Lucero wrote in her memo that Jefferson Lines and the driver failed to give any reason that wasn't racially discriminatory for forcing Davis and the other passenger to ride in the back of the bus. This person was so comfortable with their racism, they felt their racist excuses were all that they needed to put forward. She said the investigation showed the driver let white passengers sit where they wanted, and that making the two black passengers sit in the back of the bus was driven by racially discriminatory stereotypes underlying the interactions. The driver, identified only as John Doe, no, we need to know that driver here, gave several arguments for why the two passengers needed to sit in the back of the bus. Jefferson Lines policy is to board the bus on the first come, first served basis, but the driver told the black passengers that company policy was to board from the back of the bus to the front. So they lied about that. The driver also thought the two passengers were traveling together, even though their tickets were totally different destinations. And he later maintained that the passengers smelled of marijuana. After the situation became argumentative, the driver threatened to involve law enforcement. In her memo, Lucero wrote that all these actions by the bus driver were rooted in discriminatory and stereotypical expectations, including that the two black people must be traveling together and that black men are more likely to smoke cannabis or engage in illegal behavior. The driver's implication that he might need to involve the police was rooted in the trope that black men questioning the driver's decision was somehow threatening or disruptive. There was no evidence that Davis engaged in any activity that would have warranted a police intervention. During the course of the investigation, Jefferson Lines asked the driver to complete the incident report. The driver kept defending his reasons for asking the black passengers to sit in the back of the bus. He pointed to the smell of marijuana again, and that he preferred passengers to board from the back because he had noticed his passengers don't like getting bumped with luggage by the other passengers walking down the aisle. What are you talking about? Then, 1 month after the incident, Jefferson Lines issued the driver a verbal warning for deviating from the company's seating policy. Dude, Jefferson Lines, this guy is still employed? Wait a second. This guy is still employed as a driver. Are you kidding me? What do you say to this? How are we still here? How are we still in the 1960s? And once again, he let the white passengers sit anywhere he wanted. So his entire argument about they're going to hit them with their luggage, that didn't apply to white passengers, only to the black ones. And much like racist will do, they smell like dope. Oh, really? You got the nose of a fine crime dog. You're a bloodhound, huh? This is some... How many people did this guy do the same thing to that didn't report this behavior? How many times has Jefferson Lines had a bus where the black riders had to go to the back of the bus like it's Selma, Alabama in 1955? How do you keep this guy on the road? That is... I read this and I just, God, this sucks. You've got a whole bunch of people that are older now, and they look back on the 1950s and 60s and see themselves pouring ketchup and sugar on black people just trying to sit at a luncheon counter. And as opposed to sitting there saying, boy, wow, that was wrong. The entire freaking mentality of MAGA is, no, we were right to do that. We had a right. We weren't the bad guys. Those black people got uppity. Dear Lord. And here you have a guy get in the back of the bus if you're black. Wow. There's not too many times I get stunned by a story but here we are. This is Trump's America today. There you go. Native Roots Radio is up next. We are back tomorrow. Have a good one. Till then, see ya.
For a decade, it's captivated